And it's 5:15.
Okay, it is 5:15, so we'll call the meeting to order. There we go. And Mr. Secretary, Mark, if you will call the roll, please.
Bradley.
Here.
Bucher.
Buechler here.
Or Buechler, sorry.
That's all right.
Clark.
Here.
Enders. Genslinger.
Here.
Gurza.
Here.
Logan.
Here.
Cooley. Schwam.
Here.
Swenson. We have a quorum.
Okay, so thank you. The first item of business is the election of officers. I know we had a discussion on it at the last meeting. So the floor is open for nominations / volunteers / draftees.
I would start with chairperson, please.
I would move to nominate the current chair.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second, and I will not decline, and we should note that Ashley has arrived. Thank you. So, hearing no other nominations, we'll call, and we'll do roll call vote since Larry is joining by telephone, and we are being televised live. So, do you want to call
We
call
have
for
to
the vote?
cease nominations.
Okay,
and-
motion to
and-
cease nominations.
I so moved.
Second.
Okay. And I don't believe that motion needs a second.
Yeah, well, we second it.
Okay, we can second it. Do we have a second?
I did,
Yep, she
yeah.
did.
We do, okay. Melissa has it, very good. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We gotta do roll call.
Oh,
Okay, yep, roll call it.
Bradley.
aye.
Buechler.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Enders. Genslinger.
Yep.
Gurza.
Yes.
Logan.
Yes.
Schwam.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, yes, thank you all.
Yeah, are you,
Voting me back.
you're
That
willing?
was the vote to cease. We need to now vote on the actual.
On the actual, yep,
Can it be,
Oh, no,
That was it?
that's all we have to do for
You
the,
don't need
okay,
to vote for
good.
the.
We don't need to
cease.
vote the,
no,
Okay.
no. you don't need
So
to
that's the
vote.
actual vote.
That's the actual vote.
All right.
okay, since we have no objections.
Yep.
Okay, next office?
Vice chairperson.
who is it now?
Pat Clark is our vice.
You want to do it again?
Yep.
I'll nominate Pat Clark.
Second.
I'll make a motion and nomination cease.
Second? We have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. They cease. Let's call the roll.
Buechler.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Gurza.
Yes.
Logan.
Yes.
Schwam.
Aye.
Bradley.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Any other officers that we need to?
Secretary.
Secretary.
And I am your secretary, so I will continue if you want me to.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second to that? Very good. We'll call the roll on your,
Still got to cease nomination.
okay, cease nominations.
I make a motion to cease nominations.
And do we have a
I can
second?
Second that.
We have a second? Okay, nominations. Oh, okay. There we go.
Yours is on
Yeah.
Clark.
Aye.
Enders.
Aye.
Genslinger.
the. Yes.
Gurza.
Yes.
Logan.
Yes.
Schwam.
Aye.
Bradley.
Aye.
Buechler.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. And I don't believe we have any other officers to elect.
Nope.
City acts as our treasurer, finance officer, so we're all set. And we have a zero budget at the moment anyway, unless we request one from the city, which we have done in the past and can do if we take on a project such as a walking tour, brochures, or something like that that we've done. Next item on the agenda is declaration of conflicts of interest. So we'll just open the floor to the commission. If you have a declaration of a conflict of anything on the agenda, please speak up now.
Just today's agenda?
Just today's
All right.
agenda.
With
Item
the
number
next
7.
item number 7, yes. I will be abstaining from the vote.
Any other conflicts? Okay. Very good, thank you. We have the agenda in front of us. Everyone received it by email earlier from Mark, and it has been published in accordance with state law. So we have a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Enders,
Aye.
Genslinger,
Yep.
Jurza,
Yes.
Logan,
Yes.
Schwam,
Aye.
Bradley,
Aye.
Beekler,
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is approval of the previous minutes. They were sent to you in the packet. They're also available here in chambers for those in the audience who didn't receive them. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Or do we have a motion for approval?
I move for approval.
Okay, do we have a
Jersey, second.
Very good. All in favor? We'll call a roll on that.
Genslinger,
Yes.
Jurza,
Yes.
Logan,
Yes.
Schwam,
Aye.
Bradley,
Aye.
Beekler, Clark,
Yes.
Enders.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. We can move on to item 7 is review and comment. This is SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, has commented on it and sent us their review, the case review. This is 11.1. It's for the building at 514 North Main Street. Again, you've all received copies, including maps, statements from the contractor. And at this point, I think we'll open it to the architect or building owner, whoever wants to speak for this project. And then commission's free to ask questions. So please step to the mic, identify yourself for camera in the audience.
My name is Sienna Wegahaupt. I am with Pitts Design Build, and I'm the lead architect on the project. Pitts Design Build would also be constructing this project, so they would be the general contractor as well. Yeah, so we received the state review from the Historic Preservation Society. I'll just kind of address a couple of the items that they talked about. Their first kind of concern was that this proposed project had the potential to damage the historic property due to the removal of the character-defining brick on the primary facade. And so I addressed that in kind of our response to the historic preservation on the Form 11.1. But essentially, my comments on that are that the existing facade of the building is sort of a stone stucco that is not in good shape currently, as the other facades of the building do have character-defining brick, and it is the intent of the design and the owners and the design team to highlight that brick, showcase that brick. Even in the interior, we'll be showcasing that as well. And so, as far as kind of removing that character-defining brick on the primary facade, it's not currently there. We believe that the front facade has been altered because it's, on the interior, we found that the whole front facade was framed with wood studs. The rest of the building is all clay tile and brick, and that front facade has been edited with wood studs. When we were investigating further, we even found window openings that were historic that will be reopening that have previously been covered up with this kind of yellowed stone stucco. So the reference image 2 on the screen shows the stone stucco, I guess for lack of a better term, and kind of the shape that that's in. And then reference image 6, 7, and 8 sort of show where we have found a historic photo that shows some windows on the north kind of corner facade and some of the front, and where that has now been blocked up with a variety of materials. There's some metal panel, some corrugated metal a little bit further back, but all of those openings are proposed to be opened back up and be a little bit more true to the historic nature. I'll also point out that in those reference images, you'll see that there's kind of a character-defining band across the top and the base, and there's sort of a character-defining curve to the building. All of that will remain as true to, the form will remain the same, and those bands will remain as well to kind of highlight what was historic and what we feel sort of celebrates what that building was, and just in a little bit different way, and then opening up those windows to be a little bit more true to what we did find in the reference image that I think was from, I don't know the date right offhand, sorry, 1956. The other item that that was addressed was the rooftop additions massing and scale. The state commented that perhaps rooftop seating should not be on buildings less than 4 stories in height. We don't have a lot of buildings in Mitchell that are 4 stories in height, so that makes that a little bit challenging. And they proposed that having a setback from the edge of the building to kind of reduce the visibility would help the situation. So I did point out in our response that the rooftop seating is about 6.5 feet back from all of the edges. And we did that for a couple of reasons. One, that visibility factor, kind of setting it back from Main Street, but also for a safety purposes. We felt that was a good design move, just if you're going to have people on the rooftop, having them set back so that there's not that direct access to a long distance down. Essentially, it's a pretty deep setback that provides a level of safety as well. And then showing reference image like 9 and 10 kind of shows what the true view from a street view, how visible that will be. So reference image 10 is straight from Google Earth, so that's taken from essentially a car driving along Main Street, and then overlaid with our proposed building at the exact same angle. So you can sort of see on a true scale from a camera image that's approximately what you would see of the rooftop. So you can see the fence a bit up there. You can see a little bit of the furniture and a little bit of that stair tower as well. So we don't, from a design perspective, we don't feel that is a negative.
What's their reasoning there? I mean, patio seating. you
Yeah,
see
so essentially they said.
it. God forbid we show vibrancy activity.
Yep, so they said,
The Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, item number 30, or bullet number 36 says they don't recommend anything under a 4th story for
To hide it.
attics.
yeah, tall buildings, dense urban environments, which I just don't think maybe applies to where we're at.
Two
Quite well.
4-story buildings in downtown Mitchell. The
Yeah.
Weston Building and the Johnson Building.
And,
That's it.
yeah.
So,
And from a design perspective too, even if we were dealing with a 4-story building, I don't know that I would put a rooftop seating on it because that would be quite windy where we're located. It just wouldn't be pleasant. So a couple other things that we pointed out as far as sort of just some surroundings are that the Corn Palace has a deck, which is approximately the same elevation as this rooftop. And that's, a very approximate thing, and that the Corn Palace has sometimes had a deck, sometimes not had a deck. It's, it's obviously changed over the years. And so even though that's a deck and not a rooftop, we just feel from a design perspective that has some similarities as far as people being out on that area, seeing the Main Street. It's a similar height in the grand scheme of things.
Excuse me, wasn't that just a recommendation from the state interior?
It's what
Or was
they
that-
advise,
or is
is
that
their terminology. Advisement,
All
yep.
But not restricting it?
right, all they can do is advise.
Yep.
I have a couple samples of the materials that are proposed to be on the front of the building, if we want to look at that. So this is not the brick that's on the building, but it's, similar to what's existing. It's kind of a red brick. That is currently on the north facade, the east facade, and the south facade. So the two, when looking at that, that image that's on the screen, the two long facades are all brick, and the kind of back facade, I'll call it, the east facade. The front facade, or the Main Street facade, will have a mix of a siding that's painted in this darker color, so you can kind of see on the screen there. Really, there won't be a lot of that material because a lot of those windows will be opened back up, so it's a pretty minimal amount. The banding would be a black metal to kind of match the shiny feature that is currently in place, and then the kind of top band would be, it's a metal cladding that's called longboard, and it has a kind of a wood look to it, so it kind of coordinates with the reddish of the brick. There'll be lights, decorative exterior lights on the building.
Sienna, do you want to talk about that brick, though, that we're bringing to the front corner?
Yeah, so if
Trying to
you-
match the rest of the building?
Yep, so the very entry of this building, so currently the entry is recessed, and it's not ADA. It has a really steep angle that kind of curves up into the building. And so we are keeping a recessed entrance to stick with the historic nature, but we are setting it back a little bit further so that we can achieve enough ramping for ADA purposes so that it's accessible, and, just achieving universal design accessible to all.
Are you going to go straight in now?
It will go straight in now instead of, currently you kind of turn, as you're walking up, you turn to the left there and to the north. So this would be a straight entrance now in order to achieve that ramping for ADA. So with that edit on the front there, we have a little bit of area where we'll be editing. So this brick, or one very similar to the existing brick would be used to kind of piece that back in. So keep kind of adding back some brick that won't be historic, but in the hopes that it's kind of keeping with the historic brick. And everywhere else, none of the openings will be boarded up or bricked up or blocked up. And all the brick that we can maintain will be maintained as is, just cleaned up. Sorry, onto the microwave.
And it's a natural brick, but there's also, two rather large glass brick windows. Are those maintained, or will that be later replaced with window glass? Or?
Yep, so all of the glass block will be replaced with window glass. Yep.
Right now, they weren't going to do that, it can be replaced.
Yes, currently the glass block that's in place, much of it is damaged, and/or over the years, people have put in like window air conditioning or vents. So there's lots of additions and modifications, and so those will all be like just a glass, aluminum storefront, if you will. I will note also on the south facade, approximately half of the building is kind of a different color brick because there was a building there at one point in time. And so my guess is maybe they used a cheaper brick that wasn't as aesthetic. And then when that building got torn away, now it kind of is what it is. And that will remain as it is, true to what the building is.
And Pat may be able to correct me on this. I think you're right. I think the sides, the back of the building, it's a common brick, tends to be red. It's never decorated. And I don't know do you know when the building was built?
1961.
It was built in 61?
No, 1940.
I think it's got to be before 56 because that historic photo was in 56.
They have, SHPO has it as contributing 1961.
Okay.
Okay,
It doesn't say though
I
when.
think it was a
It's like automotive supply.
Yeah, I think, right, I think when public service went in, they did a remodel. It was brick before, they put in the doorway, the planter, and this rather steep ramp. But as I recall, rather than brick, I think it was a ceramic,
Yeah, yellow ceramic.
yellow or tan, and very light tan, much as the old Bowie building had, that's now the 401 office center. And that's it now. And that light tan didn't necessarily match the dark red brick on the sides anyway. And to say that that 1961 remodel is historic, I don't know. But it was a kind of that glazed ceramic tile on the facade.
That's kind of imminent.
Yeah, and Larry, maybe you recall, and I don't know,
Yeah,
that has to be duplicated. Go ahead. Anyway,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember, I actually worked at Studer's Standard Station next door when I was in high school. And I actually don't remember that building, in the early sixties of any construction actually being done on it. But obviously, I think somebody, renovated it. I'm sure, Jeff, you're right, when Northwestern Public Service went in, whatever building was there before, if it was built in the 40s, or is that what you guys said? It was originally built in the 40s? 1940. Yeah, that sounds about right with the glass block and all that. But anyway, well, I've got everybody's attention here, and I'm talking. I'm just gonna make a few comments if you guys don't. When I was looking at the plans, I just want to give you just a brief history. I live downtown in the 100 block of North Raleigh and the 100 block of 1948. I lived in the bank building 123 North Main for about 27 years. I just recently sold it. It got damaged and too old to having more. But basically, my life has been lived in downtown Mitchell back in the day, from the 40s until the 60s, and then I came back in the 90s. There's a couple of things I just want to mention. I've never seen a rooftop dining area on any building since I've ever lived. As a young child, as a grown up on Main Street, and I'm not sure really that it's all that appropriate, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the activity of Mitchell Main Street was always at the sidewalk and the street level. That I'm not saying the design is really bad. I think the design is great, but I don't think it fits in downtown Mitchell. It doesn't fit in the historic character of what was there before. It now has a railing on a roof that nobody ever had. Nobody even has any balconies down that I remember, or that I even know of right now. There's no metal railings, so it's got architectural elements that don't appear anywhere. The only current one I can think of is the little balcony off the west side of the cornfields that has a glass railing. That's the only area I know in the history of Main Street that you were ever up above the street level. And that obviously is a special condition and all that with tourists, but I'm just saying that based on what I've seen and what I know in the past, the rooftop thing is not appropriate for this building. If you wanted to build a restaurant out of the ground and do all that, that's entirely up to you in terms of a developer. But I've lived in downtown Mitchell a lot of years, probably almost 50 years of my life. And outdoor dining is not conducive to the elements that are outside on Main Street of Mitchell, South Dakota. I'm going to tell you right now. There's going to be flies, bats, mosquitoes, wind, snow, heat, dust. There's going to be all that stuff. And it just isn't suitable for outdoor dining. Yeah, maybe somebody will go there once, but I'm going to tell you what, if you go up there one time and you got to swat 100 flies off the food, you're never going to come back. Or if you go up there, if my wife and I go up there and a bat flies close to her head, she's never going to come back. And I'm telling you, they're down there.
Larry, this is
I
Clark.
know.
You know, when we were growing
So-
up, there was no outdoor dining at all back in the 50s, 60s, up until about probably maybe 10 years ago. Now, you go up and down between, like I said, up Main Street, there's probably 4 or 5 places, and outdoor dining, granted, it's not a real long season, but, for the 4 months or so, it's very popular, it seems to be getting more so. I don't see much difference between, something on the roof as compared to something on the ground level, really.
On the sidewalk.
That's kind of my perspective.
Well, and I think dining on the sidewalk is, yeah, and I think it's a dining thing because now you've got people in that urban space at that same level where you have eye contact, you can communicate, you say hi to one another, you're up on a roof, you're sort of, the rooftop dining is better in the cities. So when the preservation people say they don't like to see it unless it's above 4 stories, that's the reason why. Because they want to keep, and for these small towns, you want to keep the activity on the street. For city planning purposes, it needs to be on the street. But anyway, so enough on that. I wanted to say, I was looking on the drawings, the addition on the roof has got lap siding. I don't think lap siding appropriate for this building downtown. Has an exterior stairway. I'm not sure about that either. I know some of the older buildings way back when used to have exterior fire stairs that would escape from apartments up above, but it's just another architectural element that you don't really see on buildings downtown. So these are the things I'm saying here are architectural elements that you don't see anywhere. They're brand new. I mean, they're special or they're not there. The metal railing, and so I got a couple other things that I just want to mention too. On the front, where I saw in the drawings, it was board and batten siding, and the elements of this building are horizontal elements. You look at the brick header courses on the south side of the building and on the north side of the building, and the horizontal elements that are in the basic building that exist. Now you're introducing a vertical element, which I don't think. I think it should be a horizontal element versus a vertical element. And that goes with the windows too. The way the windows are divided up in the front, they're vertical. If they had mullions across toward the top where we divide the windows up into segments like some of these older buildings had, I think that would be more appropriate. And the only other thing I saw was they looked like the dumpster area on the southeast corner's got an open fencing to it, a wire fencing. I think that should be more like a solid fencing where it conceals the dumpsters or the grease traps or whatever they are, the grease dumpsters in the back. And I think brick might be more appropriate there or some other masonry material. But anyway, the last thing I have is the windows on the south side. You got solid paneling above the glass and below the glass. I just think that all of that should be glass instead of having solid paneling. I think having glass instead of mixing up some other materials would be, I think more appropriate. And then the last thing, I didn't see anything about signage on the building. I'm sure there's going to be signage somewhere, but anyway, those are basically my comments. I think architecturally, the project that was designed with, there certainly isn't anything wrong with rooftop dining. I just don't think this is the project for it. I don't think this is the region for it. I just don't think it's going to fly. You can do it. I don't think it's ever going to get used that much. I've done outdoor dining areas in bigger cities when I lived in Atlanta, and it's a different kind of environment. I just don't think it fits in Main Street, Memphis, South Dakota. So basically, those are my comments. I think the project, though, the seating on the south side, on the north side, where it's more street level, I think that's totally fine. I don't have really a whole lot of other problems with the building other than that the rooftop stuff introduces elements that just have never been on any buildings in downtown Mitchell. I just don't think it fits. That's all. So anyway, that's basically my input. So if anybody has any questions they want to ask me, that's fine.
Well, I think, let's ask, Jason is here. They've been doing outdoor dining at the present scoreboard for a couple of years. And are proposing, do you want to comment on that, on the, Larry brought up of fly pads, heat?
I will, and it's South Dakota, and we deal with that. We deal with the heat, we deal with the bugs, the flies, everything. But we double or triple our sales in the months that is used. And I realize that we go from 60 seats to 170 seats currently when we go to the patio. However, it proves to the part that there's days that the patio is full and that's where everybody wants to go and nobody goes inside and they leave because there's no more outdoor seating. The second question that we get asked all the time since we kind of introduced this is it really true that you're going to have a patio? Because that's what everybody wants. It's the rage. It's the new element of eating out. Everybody wants to be a little higher. They don't want people to creep on you while they drive by on Main Street. But it also gives a different view backwards, back to the Corn Palace as well, and to Main Street. And so that's kind of what we were trying to incorporate. We want to keep the elements of the history. That's why we wanted to keep as much red brick as possible. That's why we're going back to the concrete polished floors. But there has to be some form of modernization as well, because you can't run a restaurant effectively without that as well. But I've always wanted, and my wife too, she can't talk, but we've wanted to have this historical part, but bring a fun part of eating and an experience or any, down to downtown, because we just feel that it's gonna, maybe it'll revitalize and bring something more, and we just don't know that, but that's what we're after. To the fire escape that you're talking about, that is exactly what it is. It will have a lock on it. It's not our main entrance, but because of code, we have to have a fire entrance. So that's what that is. And then on the other part, on the south doors, that's kind of the kitchen, hallway, and dish area. And so that's why we paneled the bottom, because we didn't want people looking in or our team looking back out of those south windows into the parking lot. So that's why they're not fully glass. So, but I'm here for more questions.
Is this a tax credit project?
Say again?
Is this a tax credit project?
No.
Are you aware that it could be?
No. I don't know really what that is.
There are government programs that will allow you to apply for tax credits and tax moratoriums.
Okay.
However, you would have to follow the guidelines, the interior, the historic preservation guidelines.
Okay.
You might be looking at several $100,000 in savings, but you would have to follow the guidelines. So I was just curious if you knew about that.
I did not.
Well, there's just for your information, there's a developer on Main Street who has received $800,000 in tax credits. That means he probably won't pay any income tax the rest of his life. So it might be worth just checking into. Because this building would qualify for that probably.
Okay.
So I'll offer some
As
comments.
is.
I don't disagree with what you're trying to do. I don't disagree with the design. I like the design. It's exciting. I'm a little torn because it is a historic building. That's what we're here to discuss, is the historic building. I think Larry probably hit most of my comments, but things like thin brick aren't historic. Board and batten siding aren't historic. Lawnboard siding, certainly not. Spandrel panel slab siding. I feel like it went 90%. It didn't quite get there. Just not sure that I can support it as a historic project. I will admit I will be in your restaurant eating because it is an exciting project. So I'm a little torn. But from a design perspective, I'm an architect as well, and have dealt with historic projects before. There are ways to meet those guidelines and not vary from these materials and start using modern materials just because it's easy or it looks good. So my vote today is probably going to be a no, simply for that reason, but I certainly support your efforts, so. I guess that's-
So it's mostly material?
Well, one of the reasons why I think we went with a thin brick is because it, and you can help me answer this, but I believe it gave the best match.
See, and in the historic guidelines, a lot of times say when you try to mimic something, they actually don't want you to mimic it. Either use the real brick or use something entirely different. It's an interesting
And that's
dynamic.
what we were trying to do, is make it still look to that.
Right, they don't want you to make it look historic.
We don't want to make it, we want to match it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But because you can't get that brick anymore, unfortunately.
Mark, do you know the answer
You
to
can-
this? Our building is not historic on the historic registry. It's just within the historic district.
It's a contributing.
Okay, it's contributing.
And I'll just make one comment on the thin brick. So the only place that the thin brick is going is on the tiny wing wall by the entrance that is about 3 feet high. Obviously, it is, on the front side, but it's kind of a small condition where we're just trying to tie in that tiny wing wall. So it's not in a lot of places, and we don't have a brick ledge there
Okay.
because of the existing,
You have a note on elevation, south elevation number 1, it's pointing to a taller wall underneath that canopy.
south
that right
elevation
here?
number 1.
Where at?
Just down a little bit.
Detail 1, go to the left side of the image.
Oh, yeah, yep, you're right, it is there. Yep, and then that front, yeah, you're correct, it is on that side,
Still
and
a
then on
couple
the,
spots.
and then that, kind of in the foreground of that image where it says partial height wall existing brick. Yeah, you're correct, sorry. Yep, I'm correct on that. Can I make one more comment on that? As your note to signage, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only place I believe that there's going to be signage is on that thin brick wall, kind of a applique logo. So there's not going to be a lot of signage from the kind of front, nothing that's like a flashy, is this correct? Yeah, like a neon sign or something that would detract from the historic nature from the signage on the front. And where we do have the thin brick that probably doesn't, maybe meet that historic standard, a lot of that will be covered with a kind of an applique logo of the restaurant. So as you're walking north on Main Street, that would catch your eye versus, something from the front facade.
I guess my comments, I'm not real familiar about your thing, but I know Dip in the Hills a couple weeks ago. Hill City has a rooftop
Right.
restaurant that's quite popular. There's one in Rapid City down on either the east end of Maine or St. Joseph. And as Larry said, having traveled around quite a bit, both USA and overseas, it's very popular in larger cities. Granted, it's not really here yet, I don't know why it can't be. But, the other thing, I certainly can respect, that there are some major modifications here, but, this is basically, it's not a terribly historic building, talking 1940, 45, and it's not really all that unique. It's kind of a rectangular building with not a lot of personality. If it was, the Realty Building, the Western Building, we got a lot of them, Mitchell. This isn't one of them, and I guess it doesn't bother me that much that they're actually doing some modernization. Look across the Corn Palace, that got really, modernized, 10, 15 years ago when they put the metal domes on it, which to me weren't in keeping with the original Corn Palace at all. But it happens, I guess this kind of isn't a whole lot different. So, I don't know, I think, we're kind of deviating a little bit from our missions. I think it's the fact that to be such an asset to downtown and the area far outweighs the compromises we're having by, making it slightly less historic.
Yeah, I felt same way I remember the restaurant in Hill City that has dining on its kind of an elevated porch deck area. It's been very popular for years, and that is historically there in that iteration years ago. The roof dining doesn't bother me. I mean, you couldn't run a restaurant today, a fast food restaurant, without a drive-through. Yet, until the 1980s, none of them were built with drive-throughs. And I think the outdoor dining is a similar situation. We can't ask someone to run a building with a hand tied behind their back. I would not run a single-screen theater anymore. I have to have multiple screens. I think the same with the drive-through, and I think this outdoor dining on this, up until the 1990s, we were all thrilled with air conditioning and wanted to be inside. Now it's rather the thing, we want to go back outside. And I think Jason knows the numbers, and so I have no problem with the outdoor dining. It may not be exact and true, but I think the standards that SHPO is using were written for larger cities in the generality. And there were a lot of things we've run into over the years that were written that don't apply in a rural area. I mean, a lot of our codes downtown, because Main Street was once part of Highway 37 and it's a highway, there's a lot of things we aren't supposed to do, and they're all excluded. They're all given an exemption. So personally, I have no problem with the rooftop. I would be a little more concerned, as was brought up, maybe some of the materials used. That I don't know that we want solid brick. I don't have a suggestion. I don't know what the answer is, but personally, yeah, I think it would be a tremendous asset to downtown. Larry brings up a good point with the vertical lines and the horizontal lines. But the Corn Palace has vertical lines and kind of looks up. So, there's maybe some minor design things on surfaces or whatever, but I have no problem with the outdoor or the rooftop dining. Jason lives with it, makes his living by it, so I'll bow to him on that one. If he says he needs it, he needs it. And I think it'll be an asset, and I will be eating there as well. So, and I think we should read too, Mel Cooley, a commission member, was unable to attend, but he did send an email to all of us. And I think we should read into the record. I'll do that at this point. I think that it can be a great improvement to the building, as it is not of historic significance, in my opinion. If Pitts follows through on the modified plan on page 6, I do have one question. The last line of paragraph 3 states, replaced with more durable and suitable materials. I would like to know what those materials are and what color they are, as this could change the look drastically. And then he just pointed out, second point, there's a typo on page 11 under the name, Bill is misspelled. So there's a grammar lesson for today. But those were Mel's concerns on the surfaces. And again, I'm torn. We talked about the ceramic tile that was on there, put on evidently, perhaps by Northwestern Public Service, their old name, in 1961. I don't know that that's historic anyway, but it was a cohesive look the building had, and that's when the horizontal lines were added with the dark brown or black horizontal bands above and below the windows. So I don't know if there are design improvements that can be made to keep this in budget and make it affordable, or could bring it under and get tax credits. But
Well, certainly if you went after those tax credits, there's obviously a lot of savings that could be had there, but you're going to have to follow some of those items that I brought up. The thin brick would not be accepted, spandrel panels would not be accepted. You'll have a decision to make, I guess, on your own if that's worth going after or not. The bigger question that I have is, because the building is ugly, and it's an ugly building now, We can just say it.
Let's build us an auto parts store.
Doesn't mean it's any less historic than a beautiful building downtown. So at what point do we say it's historic or we don't? And that's a big gray question that everybody has to answer for themselves. I just happen to maybe be on a different side of the aisle than maybe somebody else. So I think Larry and I are kind of seeing it the same way. I'd like to see it stay historic, but I understand it differently.
The panels that are on there, the stucco or whatever, it's actually plywood with gravel that's painted on. It's actually, yeah, it's actually rotted and there's holes in it that are bigger than my fist. It's completely rotted.
Never held up. I
No.
ripped some of
And
that
so
off
we're
the
gonna-
building as well.
Right.
That's a horrible material.
Right.
It's not a stucco, it's an adhered on plywood and it's, yeah. You can
From
tell the
Shippo-
rotting in the-
You can see the first hole on that second window. in the-
I'll offer Shippo's perspective on this because I have worked with them. Just because it's rotted doesn't mean that we just have license to tear it out and put whatever we want back in.
No, and I get that.
But that was 1970s non-historic, a bad cover-up, trying to
Correct.
cover historic
So
and
we should be
modernize
going
it.
back
So
to the 50s or 40s.
Right.
If we can.
And that's where the larger ceramic tiles might work, but I don't know, vitrolite isn't made anymore, maybe there's a harder ceramic tile or a steel panel, but the joints there aren't gonna look historic. I don't know what the answer is. But, yeah, that's, a lot of what we're talking about is 1961. Attempts at modernization, that whole thing with the planter and the entrance turning north and all that, and that little incline, so. Because of the nature of the original building, I think you're making a good attempt. I would like to see some changes in some materials, but I would not vote against it for those reasons. I look at the bottom line too much more than design, sorry. That would be my feeling, but let's hear from the other commission
Well,
members.
The only thing I'd suggest for Larry's concern about more horizontal than vertical, you could switch that upper siding to be more vertical. Might change its look,
Or make
but not
it more
increase its
horizontal. He
expense.
wants-
Or,
He
yeah,
wants more
It's
horizontal,
looking for
yeah.
more horizontal.
Isn't it horizontal?
So- I don't know, but if that was a concern of Larry's, that might not
It's,
really,
the top's horizontal already.
yeah.
That's what's
currently there now too, is
Yeah.
a yellow tiled horizontal look. Now, whether that, you take off, you keep that tile, like, I don't know if that's what's gonna make or break.
Is that damaged underneath that tile, or was that all knocked off?
The yellow tile,
Yeah.
The other.
there's some of it that is damaged. Right,
Couldn't replace it, you'd have,
They don't make,
or I mean, you couldn't patch
No.
it, you'd have
Yeah,
to
you-
just replace it.
you aren't gonna find that.
And I don't know that that's,
and when we opened up some of the walls on the interior to try to see what was hidden, that's how we found those two windows that were, you can see them just on the north side, those two little individuals that we'll keep. We didn't know that those were there, because right now there's a metal, or yellow metal piece that's over top of those. We found them from the inside. And then on the south side, all that yellow brick is, or ceramic block is actually on the inside of it, but it's not on the outside. So we're not really for sure why it was on the inside there. So we found some interesting characteristics. We actually think that the entryway originally was farther back, almost where we want it to go to now. And they brought it actually forward to where it currently is now, and then covered up all those ceramic blocks.
What on the front is siding?
On the front, right around the windows.
But
So there's some additions and subtractions with your historical replacement or improvement with what it was historically anyway, with putting in the new windows
Correct. So
on the
that,
north side
that
with some cosmetic changes
yep, that
with
fourth window.
materials that can be made.
Correct. That fourth window was originally there and was taken out. We're bringing it back in and extending the opening farther into the building, which is not that way now, but we think it was that way based on the way it was, what we're seeing.
So there's some additions and subtractions that I think you take into consideration also.
You know, this is yours right here. I'm just going to make a quick comment. So if Main Street basically is, 140 years old, somewhere in there. There has never been a rooftop dining area on a building in 140 years. And I'm just saying there's a reason for that. I don't know what it is, but there's a reason for it. So just be careful, because the worst thing that could happen is you put a lot of money into this. Now you make a building that you got a lot of money into it, but it doesn't work. Now it's there and it doesn't work. So to correct it, probably take a lot more money to do something different. And I'm just saying, is there a more conservative approach that you could take on this, because it's never been done? That's all I'm saying. That I know of. I don't know of any other rooftop dining area in the history of Mitchell, South Dakota. So it will be unique in that sense. There's got to be a reason why it's never been done.
It's because I would say there's nobody that's wanting to take the risk, and I'm willing to take the
Or
risk.
spend the money.
I don't
It's
think
gonna
you're,
take
I don't.
a lot of
Come to
money.
your defense too. I'm not totally against you here. We're not here to litigate the potential success rate of the deck.
Yep,
Is it historic?
yep.
That's the
Well,
question.
and I think part of the reason there hasn't been in 140 years is until the last 20 years, outdoor dining wasn't popular. We have a deck in our home, and my wife and I love sitting out there and eating out there. So, and sometimes you find that you're just high enough that you're above the mosquitoes that you can't really sit on the grass and eat, but you can on the deck and second floor. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit of changing times here, and what works. And I'm not going to second guess the guy who looks at the books every day when I don't see those things.
It's
And that's his
oftentimes,
risk.
how me and my husband choose where to go, is who has the best outdoor seating. So
And
this will be hands down the best outdoor seating.
I'll just say one thing, and I'm not comparing Mitchell to Nashville, Tennessee. However, it's the outdoor rooftop capital of the world, and they're packed.
It is awesome.
You know why? Because people want to be up above and look down on people right now. That's exactly what they want.
Even Sioux Falls downtown, we're seeing
You
development.
get, they
rooftop.
have two or three of them now.
Yeah, 2 or 3 of between rooftop and second floor apartments with big windows and so forth. Mitchell used to have a lot of those, couple of whatever that came out on the second floor level that looked out.
But
There's one still left on Larry's building. I mean, it is.
my wife and I didn't take this lightly. We traveled to about a half a dozen cities in the Midwest. We did take a trip to Nashville. We took probably 500 pictures trying to figure out, like, just come up with how can we take all this stuff and bring it to Mitchell? Because we just feel that that's what people want.
I'm not sure if rooftop would be that big a deal down South Main, but the fact you got the Corn Palace sitting right there.
Yeah, I don't think it could be a
Corn
better,
Palace up at night is a nice sight.
Cool view.
couldn't be a better
I think
location.
That by itself, it might make it a little more likely succeeding if it was just doing, somewhere else in the community.
And we desperately need restaurants downtown. We used to have a lot of them, and we have very few today.
And renovations.
Can I make a comment? Am I not supposed to
I don't,
comment?
yeah,
Can I
just
comment?
vote. I think we have to make a comment.
I just want to have a quick comment. This is Jen Bradley, and 5-ish years ago when we started this entire project, Jason came and said, I'm going to go build another Culver's, and said that in a couple of different cities, and I was like, hold the front door, let's not jump the gun yet. And I said, let's take a look at the town that we live in. Our kids go to school in, we pay tax in, we do everything here. why not do something else in Mitchell? And we tossed that around for several years, and then COVID hit, and no one wants to run a restaurant in COVID, but we all survived and came out of it and had the opportunity. And of course, my tie to being the Main Street director 7-ish years ago said that's what Mitchell needs. Everyone is rooting for the number 2 issue of our community is downtown and revitalizing downtown. So we got serious and we took it one step at a time. It's almost been 2.5 years since we purchased the actual scoreboard building. It has, the restaurant, we don't own the building, I should say it. And this was our intent from the get-go, is we do need a better sit-down restaurant, not a better one, but more options. We've lost like 7 in the past 3 years, so I guess that's a win for us, but we want to do this on our Main Street, and we do believe that we're going to continue to grow, and our Main Street will continue to have other people and businesses and restaurants and people living there. That's what we want, right? At the end of the day. So I will say one of the biggest frustrations is little hiccups like this, that we're trying to do it, guys. We're trying to push. I love historic buildings. That's why we chose this one. That's why the ceilings will be exposed. That's why we're going to leave all the brick on the inside. It's absolutely beautiful. It's awesome. It's fantastic. And the rooftop piece is what every community is doing. We're just a little bit behind the times, in my personal opinion, but that's what we're doing, and that's what we're here for, and it's going to be great. It's going to tie into the Corn Palace and all of the different restaurants and businesses and gift shops around us, and at the end of the day, isn't that what we want, is for people to spend more money in our town, stay overnight, go out to eat? It all helps us in the end. Off my soapbox.
I'm impressed at how many things they're, I don't know. That they're honoring the historic nature of the building, which I personally didn't really realize this one was of historic nature. Yes, it's been there a long time, but it is ugly currently. Just little surprises like reopening window areas, leaving exposed brick. I think the metal, I don't know, it's just going to tie in really well. My only complaint is that the rooftop area is not larger.
Are there any other comments, or do we have a motion to call vote?
Hold on.
Or, and we can have a motion to approve, deny, pass on it, or we can also make recommendations. So we have options open to us. The basic 3 are approve or deny as presented,
So none of the,
irregardless of what SHPO
Is this
says.
a case report we're moving that place in?
Yes, you are just approving a case report. It's you.
From SHPO. So
No,
we-
not from SHPO,
Oh, from
from Pitts.
the developer.
from the developer. You
Yeah.
are, you
Right.
have 3 charges. One of these 3 is your charge, and that's it.
Right.
The HPC agrees with the findings of the case report, the HPC disagreed with the findings of the case report, or the HPC declined to comment on findings of
Right.
the case report.
Does this go to city council or is this the end of the road?
No, so glad you asked that, and sorry that you have to see this, Jason, time-wise.
know.
So right now, we are right here with the process. They had 30 days to comment, SHPO did. They commented requesting the 11.1 review, which gets sent to this board for their approval, denial, no comment. After that, it gets sent back to SHPO. They have another 30 days to comment on it. They either say it will damage, destroy, encroach, or it says they will not damage, destroy, and encroach. It goes to council at that point in time for them to either agree or disagree and let the project continue on. And then it has to be 10 days after minutes, or once minutes are published, 10 days after, or send it to SHPO, and then they have 10 days to comment once they receive it. So it's still, there's still another comment period, I'm guessing. I shouldn't guess. My assumption, still the same thing as guessing, is that SHPO will stay, no matter what this board says, it's still going to encroach upon historic portion of it, and it'll come back to council for their final say of it.
And I have no doubt they will pass it. There's no doubt. I mean,
And
it's an
the
exciting-
council will take our view, our opinion, in consideration along with SHPO's opinion. So, but yes, we have 3 options. Now, that's not to say that if we have recommendations, they have no teeth. but we can, and we have in the past, unbuilt and said, you know, if you made this alteration to your plans, we could accept it, we would like it, and we made recommendations, and we deferred action, and they came back with an improved plan, and we felt it was improved, and they did it. Now, we don't want to delay, you know, the Bradleys don't want us to delay this thing, but that is the other thing that we do. But basically, it's right. We have three options.
And I think with a previous one that we had addressed, it was kind of a photo document too of the building, right? So I mean, just
Well, that
making
was
sure
not
you
a
have.
demolition. What I was thinking of was a 401 building.
Okay.
That they eliminated the modern or Art Deco style of it, they eliminated the curved entryway. They had the entryway moved to the center of it. We said retain that, that's what gives it character, and they did. They did a nice job of redoing it. They brought the plan back, we approved it with no qualms. So I know that doesn't fit into the procedure Mark outlined, but it's kind of a way we can do that with making a recommendation. Now, maybe someone has a wonderful idea for it, but we can take an action today.
I just had one silly question. So the siding, it doesn't look like house siding, does it?
No.
Maybe that's why it's vertical, or what does it look like? Because I have a problem with how many buildings downtown are putting house siding on the front. It looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because when you said siding, I got concerned.
Yeah, so the very last page of the report has the material list. So the front main level facade is a smooth panel siding that has battens that are basically just a board that would cover the gap between each vertical panel.
Wood, or what are they doing, at these panels and those battens?
They're like an LP product.
It's an
What's that?
OSB with a factory finish on it. And
Yep.
it's smooth. It's a modern look.
Smooth.
It's a good product. I
Glazed
mean,
or
I was
whatever.
with, but, so-
Is it plastic, or what is it?
No,
wood
it's like a wood composite
Oh, okay.
product.
wood. Pressed wood.
Pressed
It's
wood.
not quite plywood, it's, I don't know, it looks like shredded wheat almost, it's compressed together and it's got a factory finish.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is kind of a,
But it's called an engineered wood product, so it's
long as it
durable,
doesn't-
it's gonna hold up.
As long as it doesn't look like house siding.
It will not.
yeah, no, I used some in the building in Vernon, that same kind of thing, and it was actually the exterior wall, but it was on an alley. No one saw it.
It looks a lot like fiber cement panels if you've
Yeah.
seen that.
All right. Sorry to take us back. That was my one thing.
Do we have a motion from anyone on the commission to exercise one of our three options?
So accepting the report is agreeing that they should do it.
Yes.
Okay, I move to accept the report.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, at this time, normally parliamentary procedure would open it for further discussion.
Any more comments?
Yeah.
Are there any other comments?
I'll just reiterate that I'm not against you guys, I'm not against the project, I'm voting strictly from a historical perspective, so keep that.
Other discussion, comments? Let's call the roll.
Enders,
Aye.
Genslinger,
No?
Jerza,
No.
Logan,
Yes.
Swan,
Aye.
Bradley abstain,
Yep.
Piekler,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, item 8, we move on to item 8, other business. Any other business to come before the commission? Ideas, suggestions, whatever. Any public input? I guess this would just be a last chance for Jan or Jason to make a comment. Hearing no public input.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Do we have to roll call that?
Okay. Well, that's,
Is that necessary?